my vice. Man up from Mars, he tripping, I put that on guard. I got the digits, but I am not calling. Wizard at night, this be that forum. I'm shooting shack with that, sunshine after that. Shooting stack with that, sunshine after that. So yeah, you know, I had a conversation with her, but it's like the signals is always crossed. I mean, like, I say yes, cause she asked me to say yes. And then she's like, I didn't want you to say yes. I wanted you to understood that a yes was required to answer the question. I was like, what?
Hey everybody, we are back. Welcome to the spot, the Stacked After Hours spot. I am your host, Natalie Cosby, and welcome to the show for Grown Folks Talk. We have been on hiatus, guys, and I know a lot has been going on in the world, but tonight we decided we have been having conversations offline, the after party, and we're going to have this conversation in the after party, so please join us. So tonight we are talking about sex and religion. Sex and religion. The Father, the Son, and Lord have mercy, the Holy Ghost. Yes. Hey, Tennessee. So y'all get those glasses, get those blunts, get those whatever you are going to get yourself lit, because we want to keep it what? We want to hear your comments and questions in the chat. Yes. So it's stacked. We keep it what? Lit and enlightening. So let's bring on in my co-host, Miss Anthea Sunshine. Little fairy dust for us. Hey, Miss Anthea. I miss everybody. It's so weird. I can't believe we've been gone for so long that we're back.
I know. I miss being here. I miss everyone. Miss interacting with people online. So make sure you send those comments, people. We want to hear from you.
Absolutely. So, Anthea, sex, the tabernacle. Exactly.
Exactly.
We are going to take you to the tabernacle. We're going to unpack it. We're going to get a Pentecostal conversation around sex and religion going on tonight. So, Anthea, some of the things, and it was funny, the whole topic came up in our after party, you guys, and y'all should really make it to the after party because we have some really interesting conversations there. But one of our newbies to it, Agnes' brother, he's just like, how do you guys feel about basically at this age waiting when you meet somebody that you possibly like, waiting to have sex, like giving them a time frame around because of your spiritual beliefs or your belief system that you believe that whatever. So Anthea, what do you think?
Girl, you had me researching the Bible, looking up scriptures, everything, the whole time
You know what? I want a sermon from Sunshine. Reverend Sunshine. Deaconess Sunshine.
But listen, if we're speaking about religion, I don't know that the Bible said there is a specific time frame that you need to wait before you can have sex. I think the Bible, if we're going to quote the Bible, I'm going to read the quotation because I don't want to,
scripture, girl. It ain't a quotation; it's the scripture. Come on now.
It says, "Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but he that commit fornication sinneth against his own body." And so, if we are thinking about sex and religion and waiting to have sex, there is no time frame that's set out in the Bible based on all the scriptures that I've read. And there is no time frame that guarantees whatever your end goal is. If your end goal is to wait to know this person better, that doesn't necessarily mean that if you wait, let's say 3 months, on month 4 that he ain't gonna be an asshole. Nothing is guaranteed waiting. Now, it is a good idea to wait, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't guarantee what you believe your end goal is. It doesn't make you holier, and it doesn't make you know the person any better, because he could be an asshole at 91 days.
I think it's spiritually. I think it's spiritually when you attracted to. I think so. Let me say this.
Hmm.
I've been on both ends. I have waited and I have not waited. In my recent relationship, I waited a little bit before I wanted to be intimate because I wanted to get to know him. Now, part of that was my belief system because I was just like and I had to reevaluate, I had to reassess myself, right?
What in your belief system?
I
Uh,
think how I was raised Baptist. Well, I was Episcopalian and Baptist. I'm very confused right now. It's one of the same. But anyway, Episcopalian and Baptist. But I from what I believed and how I was raised is you are supposed to wait to not necessarily marriage. I think I'm a little bit past that. I mean, when I was a virgin, yes, I was trying to wait till I got married. That did not happen.
uh-huh.
But as a woman of this age, I was just like, I've tried it where I've just like, okay, I'm going to jump in after the second, or well, maybe let's say a week within. I like him, I'm digging him. I
Right.
want to see what it's about, right? But it's always gone left. I said, so let me try something different. I want to
Right.
get to know him. I want to see if we are equally yoked, spiritually yoked, so on and so forth. And if it makes sense in it. And I'm gonna still continue. I'm not gonna say after that time I don't know anything else. I'm continuing to learn, but at least I've built a trust with him, or there's a connection with him where I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable that
Okay. It's
I want
so
to give.
it's your comfort level, because I
It's
was
my
just going.
comfort level, but it's also I feel like spiritually there's some kind of connection. Like I just feel like in my past when I have had sex, I mean, that's all it was. I'm not saying it wasn't sex, but I think it gets masked in other things in my head in the past. And so it's
So
like I want to relax that and get to know him first.
that I agree with, but what makes it less spiritual if you waited 1 week versus 3 months or
I
two
feel like
months?
you get stuff starts to unfold when you dig people. When you start to
No,
have
no, no, I
conversations.
understand that, but in terms of spirituality is where I'm going
I
back
but
to.
see, I don't to me, I don't disconnect my emotional and spiritual self. They're to me, they're all intertwined. So I don't necessarily know if there is a disconnect. I just feel like the more I get into you, something is moving me, my spirit is moving me to you. I'm drawn to you. I want it more versus me just leaning like I'm horny and I want it right now. And I don't even know if I really like your ass.
Well, that I get, right? But I think when you mentioned it first, I think I'm going back to that statement where you said you're entrenched in your spirituality. It kind of helps you to think about waiting longer before you decided to have sex with your current relationship.
You've never met a guy where you've just been like, I really like him, but
Mhm.
I don't want to really give it to him just yet. I just want to make sure that this shit is right. Like
Right,
my
right.
soul is just telling me, Natalie. And I think to me, I'm gonna call it the Holy Spirit. That's what my Holy Spirit be telling me. Natalie, just
Mhm.
hold on. You don't got to give him the draw. So if he's for
Right.
you, he ain't going nowhere. So I hate you, Montaigne. I can't stand your ass. But yes, yes,
He
that's
did not do that.
you are not doing that. That is hilarious. But I do believe. I mean, I understand. Like, it wouldn't matter if he's for me and if I had sex with him 3 days later, maybe it wouldn't matter. You're absolutely right. But I do. For me at this moment, it's
Right.
something different about this relationship, and I think part of it is I didn't lead with sex.
Right. So I am happy you said that, and I actually believe in that 100%.
Won't he do it? Yes, he will. Won't he will? Go
I
ahead.
actually believe in that 100%, Natalie. I mean, waiting, I would always recommend with anybody, especially if you want to take somebody seriously or you're taking somebody seriously. But I think sometimes we our personal values, wherever it comes from. It might have been because of Christianity or religion, or you're just, born with proper manners or whatever. And that to me, I think, is a little different than um, when it comes to you're going to do this because it's spiritual or religious, right? So you're not waiting until you're, I think, so this is where I'm going to call out hypocrisy, not in you, but in like in general. Some of us are like, okay, my spirit says don't do this, but I'm still fornicating, or my spirit says I can't eat pork, go back to pork, but then I'm having sex outside of marriage. My spirit says this, I'm gonna go to church and I'm gonna be the holiest person, but I'm sleeping with a married man or a married woman or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the hypocrisy there is where I have the most difficulty in people talking about their religious beliefs, and if it's indoctrinated in the Bible that they said that they read and interpreted that it meant a specific thing, then to me it's like you're negating half of the things that you said you believed in,
Right.
right?
Right. I mean, let's. I have one question for you, Anthony. Anthony, what is your spiritual guide? How do you?
So I grew up in the Caribbean, and Caribbean spirituality is probably the same sort of like as the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very conservative, very strict, very controlling, and there is a lot of what do you call shame, as
Mm-hmm.
we talked about earlier on tonight, and there is a lot of judgment, um, uh, to the point where even right now, we can't even go to church with like short sleeves, or you have to have this covered or that covered. You can't go in pants to certain churches. Catholic church, you can do that, but you can't do that in other churches. So everybody have these different strict rules and guidelines based on how you should go to church and how you should present yourself. And then outside of presenting yourself, there is that judgment. You put lipstick on, you color your hair, you put earrings in, you're harlot, you're hoe, whatever it is they want to call you. So it's very quick for people to judge, and I'm sure it's the same as
Yeah.
some places in the South, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, we're going to expand upon this conversation more. So let's go on and bring in our panel. All right. Hello, gentlemen. We got two fine young men on the panel. Welcome back, our composer of our theme song, and he is in the middle of Ramadan, so he is really in the place of all kinds of things going on. So
Holiness, amen.
welcome back to our show, our continuing and star panelist Malik Kayem. Hello, Malik.
Hello, everyone. How's it
And
going?
then And then next we have, of course, my other half. He is a Catholic schoolboy turned accountant. Let's welcome Keith Walker to the panel.
Good evening, everyone. How y'all doing?
Let's,
Good evening, Keith.
all
Believe,
right.
believe it or not, Keith, I also went to Catholic school.
Oh, I know.
You
But
see
see,
how I turned out, right?
what was funny about that? That's what they always say about Catholic school girls, right? So, that's the duality. So, I know.
Oh.
I witnessed it and took part of mighty many of them. So I know.
Mm-mm-mm.
So I
Mm-mm.
want to let's dive right into the show because there's a whole lot to unpack tonight.
Yes.
So, how does your belief system or religious beliefs um, frame or apply to sex or your choices in relationships? I'm gonna start with Keith.
That's a good question. So let me say this, to Anthea's point, growing up Catholic, and especially being from the South and in New Orleans particularly, you kind of have a duality of things. So
Mhm.
it's the way we were raised was you're supposed to wait, to get married before you have sex. But the reality of it was, people started having sex like as teenagers. So it was just something to do, and that's just what it was. So for me now, much older, my sex is tied to my overall spirituality. I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore in terms of following the strict letter of religion, but my belief system is still bathed in Catholicism and being a Christian. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but to your point, sex is something that is part of life. It feels good. It's something you want to do, but I don't feel I'm going to hell because I have premarital sex. You know what I mean? I don't feel that burden on me like that. I know that it's something that is accepted in my brain, and whether I rationalize it or not, that's just kind of how it is. It's something that you do, and it's something that feels good. It's something that's enjoyed, and there's no guilt around it as long as I'm responsible in how I move and do it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It
Yes.
makes sense. I mean, we all fall short of the glory of God. Hallelujah. But
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, we're all not going to be perfect. There's got to be something that we're going to fall short on.
Exactly. And to me, it's kind of one of those things. If like we were talking about it, before on previously on the after party, that what's sin, right? Is sex is sin, and to me, it's like, well, shit. If it's a sin, why does it feel good? Why did they make it feel good? If God invented it, and it's just supposed to be for procreation, why does it feel so fucking good that you get to do it and you get to enjoy it with somebody, and it's a deeper level to connect that you may not be able to have kids or whatever the case is, but it's just something that it's another form of intimacy. So, I mean,
Mhm.
when I look at it from a spirituality perspective, that's how I see it.
Okay. Malik, what is your belief system and how have you applied it to sex and relationships?
A Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I was when I took my shahada about like around 8 through probably like my 20s, I wasn't as maybe devout as I've tried to be in the last year or two. So my approach now is very different to intimacy than it was before,
Mm.
because I feel like physical intimacy is the last layer of intimacy. So I feel like I have to be spiritually intimate with you. I have to be intellectually intimate with you. I have to be emotionally intimate with you. And then the physical part will happen. Because here's the reality, I believe. You kind of don't know what you kind of can't miss what you don't know. So
Right.
once you open the Pandora's box of being intimate, then starts the whole being able to compare and contrast and
Right.
rate this woman against that woman and this trick against that trick. But if you had the advantage of maybe possibly only having one partner, like you hear some of our grandparents and great grandparents talk, they don't even have the kind of convoluted minds we have about all the different types of partners and different positions of things to do. They just kind of, when I like
Hmm.
speak to my grandparents, they had 7 kids, 6 kids. And my grandma was like, I married your granddad at, I was like, I think she was 16, he was 18. They were married for like 50 something plus years until they both died. Clearly they were active. They had, my dad is one of 6. I don't know. I mean, maybe they did do something behind the scenes and I never knew about cheating on other people. But based
Exactly.
on,
They lied better than we did.
but yeah,
There was
and
no
maybe
there
they
was no
did, but
social media
based on how it was
It's
presented to
social
me,
media.
and no
based on
Pornhub
how it
either.
was presented, I feel like they kind of just were into each other and kept physical intimacy within the confines of their marriage. And I just think I think it's just, I would look back and say that would be a beautiful thing to be able to say.
No.
So
Hmm.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I agree with Malik on that. I think it is beautiful to say that, but I think to your point though, it's kind of like different times, and we have way more information now than we did before. So to your point about multiple partners, it's almost like you don't know what you don't know. So if we're never exposed to sex, you never see sex on TV, and I'm sure they didn't really see any of that stuff. But now our society is inundated with sex, with sexuality, with just everything.
So
So
doesn't that I think I'm kind of on the fence with I'm kind of leaning a little with Malik, not leaning, but does it make sex less intimate? Because
yes,
it's
it does.
so casual.
Right.
It's so casual.
I think
Like
it does. But
there's such an easy way to disconnect to connect without being connected.
Connected.
yeah,
Sexually,
absolutely.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just want to kind of go back to something that Malik said a little bit. And while I love my parents, my grandparents, and great grandparents, I think sometimes they kind of lied to us and sold us some things that were unattainable that we are still striving to attain. We want to hear that. We want to feel that they spoke to us about with their loved one and partners. But were they being truthful? I don't know. The other thing that I also think that I struggle with is they told us that sex was bad and it was sin and it's gonna kill you and it's gonna
It was
it was
severe.
the worst thing in the world, and they did that to scare the hell out of us so that we won't
Well,
do
they
it.
did that. Let's be clear. They did that to women. They did
Right.
not do that. I don't necessarily know if they did that to men.
I don't
Kind
know.
of.
Well, we got told in Catholic school that if you play with yourself too much, it might fall off. So that was one of the things that my brother got told too. So it's
Did it fall off, Keith?
no,
Well,
it works quite well actually.
the naked yoga goddess is here. No, it's
What's
hi
up,
naked
Kim?
yoga goddess. So
Yeah.
yeah. Kim, we're talking about now we're talking about our belief system in sex. But continue, Keith. I'm sorry. And then Kim, I want to ask you that same question. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, we're to Anthea's point, we're taught that, especially at least in Catholic schools, you're almost taught that sex is bad. It's not something you do, and they try to give you every reason for not to do it, rather than come at it from an approach that Malik said, which is basically this is the last part of intimacy and explaining why it's so important to have that last to really get to know somebody to build a relationship. You're just taught that, oh my God, if you do this, you're gonna go to hell. Not the reason why it's actually good for you to wait to have sex because you really want to connect with somebody on every level first before you give them that energy and share that energy. That's the difference. And I think if people were taught that, the shit would be a lot different.
Right.
Yeah. Kim, I just wanted to like we were talking about your belief system and sex and relation and how has that applied to your own because I know you've been married in the past and now you are I'm not going to say you're free. You're independently,
I'm
you're no longer
really
married.
single.
But
Yeah.
Really single.
just really quickly, just your belief system and how has it applied to your relationships and your perception of sex?
So thank you all for being patient. I'm sorry for my tardiness. I was listening, so I heard everything. And very, very similar. I just had some technical different difficulties. Very similar to the two women on the panel. I grew up Baptist church. I did not go to summer camp. I was in vacation Bible school every every summer. So I grew up very, very much in the church. And I grew up in the church because my mother wanted to raise good girls, and that was her way of protecting me. So because of that, I've been able to, it hasn't been a traumatic situation, as religion can play a very traumatic role for people's sexuality.
Mhm.
But for me, because I have really understood that it was her own fear, because just like you said, Natalie, women get controlled a lot more in religion than men do, especially in the Black community. And when they start to see their little girls, 12, 13, busting out and having these women bodies, Jesus will do it. And it's like, lock her down, send her to church, and start to use all of our religious rhetoric to control her. So
Yeah.
that was my experience.
Yeah. I I want to go back because I think now even today I was home last week with my mom And I've always, I've had this woman body of mine since I was 12, right? And so whenever I go home, she's always pulling down my shirt to cover my ass because it's sexual, right? Everything in the Black community, ass, titties, da da da, is sexual. It needs to be covered. It's sacred. And I was reading something where it said, women are valued based on their purity.
Mm.
And men's celibacy is valued on their justice. Like, are they living justly? It takes a man of justice to be in that space of celibacy or abstinence or so on and so forth. So, like, the rules that have been applied to us, especially now, I think it was rules that were applied, like, you're going to be married for 20, you're going to be married to that person for the rest of your life. But what rules have you applied now? What rules have changed for you in the sense of how you view sex with your moral compass?
How we view sex
How
with
you approach sex, view sex with your moral compass. You meet somebody, and then what happens?
you get to know them. I think I think like you, Hennessy. I think like you, Natalie. I mean, in the past, there was a times where sex would have led a relationship, and that's how I, ended up being in a relationship that you just end up like, yeah, I don't know. The other thing is, I've known people for many years and has developed relationships with them, and still in those two situations, I may not have known them as much as I would have liked to. So um, waiting is good. I mean, I'm gonna go back to that same topic. Waiting is good, but it's not necessarily for me entrenched in religion. It's just based on how I feel.
Mm, okay. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
and I mean, I agree with that, Anthea. I think that for me, it's kind of the same thing. It's how I move in sex is more about me as a responsible adult male, as opposed to when I was a teenager, that was, just all the hormones and everything's coming out, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. It's just, I see something, I got to go after it. Now I see something and it's like, oh, okay, that's nice. But, you know, to me, it's twofold. I think the sexual energy you have when you're single and looking to be in a relationship should be done at this stage, I would hope, not based on your religion necessarily, but based on your knowing yourself and knowing and understanding what you need out of a relationship. And hopefully, to everything that we talked about is really about making those connections first, like Malik described, before you get physically intimate with somebody. And at least for me at this age, that's not necessarily spirituality. That's just how I move now. And again, being back in a committed relationship, sex is important because it's still another level of intimacy that you're able to be able to bring to it too. So to me, it's not, like I said, religious based. It's just the right thing to do and being mindful about yourself and somebody else.
Hmm.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I look at it as that my belief system sets the foundation for my moral compass. And I'm at the point in my life now where I love myself enough and more to the point that I don't believe everyone is deserving of me.
Mm.
So it's like, why would I share myself with every and anyone
Right.
without any type of vetting process or some type of real stringent criteria for me to say, okay, I've earned the right to be shared with you, and you've earned the right to be shared with me. I just feel like, and I feel like without a religious or spiritual foundation, I will say, you don't really know what those criteria are. For everything in life, you need, there's some kind of process to get a driver's license, to get any kind of credentials, to get a degree. There's some kind of study you have to do, then test taking, and there's just a process. And I feel like when it comes to intimacy, because each of us have our own processes, quote unquote. There's the standardized process is your faith. Should be. That's the standardized process everyone should maybe subscribe to or try to adhere to. But because we all go out and do it how we want to do it, I think personally that's why society is where it is today. Because it's like to drive a car. We all can't just wake up at 16 or 15 and think, you know what, I'm ready to get behind the wheel of a car and just go out and drive a car. You can't do that. But that's kind of what we do in essence when it comes to having sex. You just wake up one day, you feel you're ready, you find a person who's willing to partake of it with you, and you just dive in. And I feel like if you wouldn't dive into other things that are less important, why would you just dive into that activity?
Malik, could I ask a question on that real quick? Because I agree with you. I think that it is part of being able to learn and grow and understand that. And I totally appreciate the fact that you're saying that it's grounded in faith. But to me, your religion is different than your faith and your beliefs. And the reason why I'm saying that is because religion is a practice of your faith. What you believe and what you've been taught are those things that you hold true, and to your point, that's your moral compass. We try to put those things to be together to make sense of it, but they really are separate things. Religion
Correct.
is a practice, right? So, okay. I just want to make sure I understood what
believe
you're
from your
saying.
religion, you extract your faith.
Got it. Okay.
So like if you grew up Catholic, like I went to Catholic school for 2 years. So I they teach you the catechisms and all the 7 sacraments. And from that, I extracted things that I felt aligned with the belief system I was raised in. You know what I mean? So I was kind of like, okay, like this is similar, that's similar. They want you to do this that way. So I appreciated it. I didn't absorb much of it. But I just feel like also too, we absorb so many invisible scripts from society, like what we see in the news and what we see in music videos and what we see in magazines and on television shows. Because I remember when I was a small kid, I think the only thing close to any nudity on TV was like Showtime After Dark. And I remember me and my brothers would try to
I remember that.
me and my brothers would try to sneak and watch Showtime After Dark, or like the Robin Beard show. When it was on like public access.
See, Cinemax was the devil, man. Cinemax was the devil.
Yeah, now you can go, and we would watch it in the living room very low and on one volume, so like 20 year, and we'd be like this. One of us would be listening, the other one would be watching, and we take turns. Whereas now,
you want to get caught, huh?
Exactly. It's like mom.
The sound effects.
That's what I used to do before you go to sleep.
So now it's just so saturated that I think people just become desensitized to the importance of physical intimacy.
Yes, I agree with that.
To the reverse of what you just said as well, too. People are also selective about what they choose to follow from what they've learned as well, right? So, I mean, it goes both ways there.
Because like here's something I would like to ask, right? You know how you go to the car wash and you get a car wash and they punch your card, right? And then after 10 hole punches, you get a free car wash or whatever, right?
Where's that?
No, I'm just saying, like, how would people feel is every time you were intimate with someone, they punched a sex card for you. And then now the potential person you want to marry, you have to present them this card right before you marry them.
So Malik, hold that thought, because
I know where you're going.
This is a great segue into the whole premarital sex thing, because I think one of the things that I was watching, I was reading, and they were just like, that's kind of the whole thing around the spiritual connection, the soul ties, as you call it, right? Like some people are just like, sex is just physical. A lot of people believe it's just physical. It's a physical act. It's really not. It's intimate, but it's just an intimate physical act. There's no connection. But one guy said, while I was watching this one podcast, he's just like, there was a girl, she was 19 years old. She had been with 60 men up until the day she was going to get married at 25. And he was just like, the funny thing is, it's just like, I think her husband had only been with 2. He's like, so it's kind of sacred to him. And he's just like, are you going to be constantly comparing your past sexual experience with this one person? Because it's not, I don't know what, but the whole point is like the punching of the card. There's just like, the more whatever you have, the harder it is it creates a mental competition in your mind for past lovers, and knowing that there's possibly something out there better than what you're currently with.
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
sure.
crazy. That's not healthy emotionally. That's the problem.
But my thing is I feel like a lot of people are moving in that way.
Right,
They
which
may
is
not verbally say it like that. Well,
What you
say it
said,
again.
Sim?
Say it again.
because a lot of people are insecure.
right.
They are.
This is
Yeah.
now more than ever, we're starting to see everyone need for mental health and the importance of mental health. I don't remember mental health being so mainstreamed as it has in recent times. And when those types of conversations come up, they are starting to indicate mother wounds. They're starting to indicate daddy issues that are not just things that women are experiencing, but we're also seeing it more and more with men, especially the younger generation who are a little bit more open to be vulnerable and to express their feelings. So something like being able to say you have had all these sexual partners and I'm really feeling a way about that has to be called what it is, and that's insecurity. And we don't need to change, I believe, our behavior for insecurity, but we should start to have conversations around that and talk about why people have these insecurities. And I just wanted to touch on what changed things for me as, grown girl gone wild. It was growing up and understanding my body. I do think that we should wait, but not because of the way of life. I think we should wait because we don't know anything about our bodies.
Right.
And we are putting things in us and we are allowing things to be in us, and we don't really understand the soul ties, the energetic connections. I am so free and I am so in love with sex and sexuality, but I don't have sex and I don't date because I notice how much my energy is depleted when I have lovers, because my energy is so delicious, it's so pure, and I am aware of that, that when I have a lover, they suck it out of me in all different kinds of ways. We're grown, right?
Yeah.
So,
I was about to say,
you know,
we might be getting some ideas about
I'm talking about that. Be grown. So my thing is to be aware of that. When I was a young woman in my college years, 20s, I wasn't aware of that. I was just like, oh, men like sex.
Can I ask you a
And
question?
he likes my sex, so he likes me.
So let me ask you a question.
Now,
How old were you? Go ahead. How old were you when you got married?
I was over 30. Okay. But I met my husband when I was 24.
Mm.
And you were with him up until y'all got married?
Yes. I was with that man longer than I was an adult. So he, to me, was, oh my God, he's the best sex I've ever had. Oh my God, I got to be with this man because this means I'm going to. But what I didn't realize is there was something that opened in me. There was something that was happening in me, and he was attracted to that. And instead of me realizing that that was inspired by something that was happening in my body, I gave my orgasm to a man, which, no offense, men, I love y'all, but their penis has 4,000 nerve endings. Our clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings. We cannot give our orgasm and the significance and power of our orgasm to them. And once I started to intellectually understand that and put that in my body, one of the reasons I flung all my clothes off, because I just became so in love with me and myself. And the way I can make myself have an orgasm is just it's inspiring to share with my next lover.
Okay.
It's not necessary for me
Okay. All
to
right.
have him, but to share it with him.
Kim, can
So
I ask
God gave us a pleasure. So,
We're going back to church.
So go ahead, Anthea.
No, I have a quick question for you, Kim. So, do you find people judge you now or say things about you now that you're single and you're free versus when you were married? Do people treat you differently?
okay, do people treat me differently or do people judge me?
Well, I mean, both, a little of both.
Judging, I have no idea.
Okay.
That's on them. Treat me differently, yeah, but there's a lot of dynamics that go into that.
Okay.
But one, because I used to move differently. So now, especially when my children are with their dad, because we co-parent, he's great. We co-parent. And now when I'm by myself, I do show up single. And so sometimes people are like, are you depressed from being divorced? I know you had this beautiful Black family. You posted all the time. Like, are you okay? So they treat me differently based on the dynamics of being in a family and then not, and being single and then being divorced. But judging me because I'm naked on the internet, judging me because I have children and I am sex positive, judging me on any of those, don't know.
So it's
No
interesting
idea.
because it sounds like both you and Malik, Kim, you said you're not having sex, physical sex with someone else. And Malik, you're celibate, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So Kim, I don't know if I would call, to me, I would call that celibacy, but I don't know if you call it celibacy. And I'm going to ask everybody this because I've met a couple of couples that we've had on the show. They're waiting till they're married to actually, and they're like our age. I think this is the thing. Where are we now? They're our age, and they're 50, like 49 and 53, and they've decided to wait. I know some other people are talking about like being celibate outside of relationships. So, what is the purpose of celibacy at this age now? I'm gonna start with you, Malik, because I'm curious.
Well, I think for me, and I was fresh off of like spending time in Colombia and other countries abroad where I was not in the mindset I am now. So, I kind of had my last hurrah with the world, and then I decided to just get back more in tune with myself, to just ask myself, why am I giving myself to these people so freely? What am I really getting out of the experience? Am I doing it just to kind of stroke my ego and be able to have conversations with my friends like, oh yeah, I took her down? Because like, here's the thing, when like men are alone and we talk to each other, if you take a vacation, the first thing typically any of your guy friends ask you, did you hit anything? Did you smash anything? Yeah.
Exactly.
I had to wonder, why is that the narrative with us? They don't care about the architecture, learning about the beautiful new culture. It's like, yo, you didn't hit nothing out there, son?
That's secondary. We get to that afterwards.
Yeah, so it's like I had to start asking myself, why do I subscribe to all these different narratives that have been ingested into the Black male mindset? And I just really think, what is the value? What is the value for me with these interactions? Then I also started to get more into my spirituality because I knew Ramadan was coming, and I was just trying to really change who I was as a person. And I said, part of that is how I interact with women. So, part of it might be something even as simple as like when I walk down the street, let's say, I used to unconsciously just check women out. If I'm walking and the girl walks by that has a nice figure, I'm turning my head to look at it. And not really trying to engage her on any other level than physicality. And even though she might not notice it, and it's a harmless thing that most people do, I just wanted to change the type of man I was. Because I say, God forbid, there's some young boys out there that might look at me as a role model or just look at me as, okay, I want to mirror myself with this kind of gentleman when I get older. What am I doing when I think no one is paying attention to me? Is it the same thing when all eyes are on me? And it was a little different. So I had to really start structuring my life. I had to kind of change the things I was looking at Instagram. I had to kind of change some of my friend circles. I had to change a lot of the literature I was reading because we live in a very over-sexualized society. And I found for myself, I gained a higher level of clarity I gained more discipline over other areas of my life, like being able to control my sexual urges translated into me being able to have better control over my finances, better control over my other social interactions with people, better control over my time. So for me, it's been a win-win. You know, I mean, I definitely have moments where I'm like, you know, I get a little antsy, but I really try. And then it also gave me a better ability to control my actions and thoughts. So I try, like, even when I do hang out with young ladies now, I'm like, okay, instead of going to the movies or to a bar to have drinks, what do you like to do? You like to hike? Let's go for a hike. Oh, you like the library? Let's go check out some books. Let's go to a bookstore. Oh, you want to go throw axes? You want to bowl? You want to go paddle boating, rock climbing? Like, I try to find so many different activities because we live in a city of a million activities. So it's so easy. And that's what I said. And then also I wanted to give a better example to my children. It's so easy to fall into the patterns of what we normally do for a date. Let's go out for drinks. Let's go for dinner. But there's so much more things we could do. A poetry reading.
It's easy, right?
Go to the Momo on free Fridays and look at art. There's just so many things to do to just improve yourself as a person. So it's not even about the woman. It's more about me just saying, like, listen, I can be this kind of guy. Like, I'm pushing myself to try to be the type of man I'm proud of. Like, if my life was my mother used to always say, if your life is a movie, how many scenes would you want people to fast forward?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
And I had to stop and think, like, damn, definitely that night, this one night stand, fast forward that. This party in Cancun.
How many fast forwards do you have, Malik?
Enough that I'm definitely trying to, you know, I'm trying to make part 2. No fast forwards.
Okay.
You can't skip through. You want to skip through a whole season, Malik? That's what you say.
Go, Malik. I applaud you, of course, for taking this stance in your life and taking a step back, looking at yourself and getting into yourself. But do you find yourself, because what I've found is that when people do that and they get a cleanse and they start over, that they start judging other people or looking down on other people. And while it's great that you're doing that for yourself, they almost come across as, I'm now holier than thou. So why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You know?
Yeah, because most things I do.
Feeling that way now that you're going through this process.
No, I don't. And as you see, like, most things I do, I don't even share with people unless they ask me. Like, you see, I went to lunch with you guys. I was chilling, having a good time. I wasn't like, oh, well, you know, it's Ramadan, I'm fasting. I'm just sitting there chilling, having a good time. And if someone will ask me, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to get something to go because I'm going to eat later. I don't even really dive into it unless, you know, we're having that kind of conversation because everyone is on their own journey. And, you know, it took me years to discover or to you know, to embrace, because I don't think I really rediscovered this information. I think I just started to embrace it because these are
I'm going to call you out a little bit, just a tad bit. Do you mind, Natalie?
Go ahead.
On the same show, you have come on and talked about, you know, how you judge women based on multiple baby daddies or whatever. And you
that's for me to be with you. Like, I have to have, and I don't consider that judging. That's my standard of what I want to be.
I mean, I may have misinterpreted.
You know what I mean? Like, so if I meet a person, let's say you might want a man who's college educated. You might want a man who has, you know, a certain income, a certain height, maybe children or no children, maybe a smoker versus a non-smoker. So just based on my life experiences, I have now set certain criteria for myself. And I think everyone should have a standard. Like, I've met women who said, hey, I don't date guys who smoke. I smoke. I get it. It's a bit offensive to me. It hurts my feeling. I've met women who said, I don't date men with children. And a girl told me that one day. She said, listen, even though your kid's a big, like, and you have to think, my daughter's 24. My son is 17. So, you know, my daughter's out of college. She has her own job, her own place. My son is on his way to college on a full scholarship. So I think I did pretty well. But she said, listen, you have 2 children from 2 different women. Clearly, your life pattern seems to show that you're just going to make a baby and keep it moving. Now, that was her judgment of me. And I said, you know what? Based on my past, I could definitely see how you extract that narrative about me, and I respect your opinion. It's not who I am.
So what is the moral compass that keeps you from dating a woman that has 2 different baby daddies?
One I find, and I think I was just blessed to have 2 beautiful children with 2 beautiful women that we really were able to co-parent and get along well. So I wouldn't necessarily not date a woman in that circumstance, but I would have to really see what her situation is, because I don't know what the interaction is with the baby daddies. I don't know what type of parenting techniques you implement. And then even myself, as wonderful as my relationships have been over the years, I've dated women who said like, hey, like I used to have a thing before my son was born where I would say, hey, Christmas Eve, because me and my daughter's mother got along so well, I would spend the night at her house. And nothing would happen. I would just say, listen, you know what? My daughter is like a Cosby Kid generation. She wants to wake up kind of with both her parents there, opening her presents. But now a woman I'm dating, the average woman might not understand it. They might say, if you spending the night there, you're probably doing something with her.
So just quickly, because I really don't want to veer off of the topic, but I know we're talking about moral compass and religion and spirituality. Can you see how people could possibly,
of course,
purpose your
no, of course, and that's why I understand when it happens, because I get how, you know, you could see someone. It's like, you know, Malcolm X started in prison and then became a world leader.
I think everybody. So let's go back. I think the other thing about the beautiful thing about spirituality in this life is we can have a redemption whenever we choose. We can have that moment of like Kim said, I needed to explore myself. That is her redemption right now. That is her freedom. Even though it's not maybe cloaked in the idea of what we have said about religion, I think that's the beauty about it. Like, I believe anybody can practice whatever they truly believe in, but it's uncomfortable when we hear it in our heads and we don't understand it.
Right.
And I think that's the judgment that we are constantly struggling with, especially when we are over 45 and we're like, what? Girl, you got 4 kids by 3 different baby daddies. Now you found Jesus.
But Natalie, though, that's it's definite. It's certainly different for men and women.
It's totally different.
It's different, but it's not that different in the sense of, because men will judge other men and women will judge men, just like Malik said, based on that. So it's not. How do I say this?
Let me say
No,
that.
you're right. I'm not trying to argue that point, but I want to go back to the judgment comes from, I think, what Kim said earlier, the lack of insecurity. To say, okay, I can't be secure enough in myself to just focus on me, like Malik was talking about, that I got to go put my feelings on somebody else and judge them one way or the other. That's just ridiculous. There's no reason for that, other than the fact that you're not good at who you are.
But let's take it to go ahead, Kim. I'm sorry.
Well, in my case, the judgment is kind of ridiculous because my parents, my mom and my dad, I grew up with both parents. They raised a wife. Mm-hmm. I got married right out of college, just like they wanted. Couldn't stand up in any church. This is my daughter and her family. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 children. She's fruitful. She multiplied. I did all of that. And I was unhappy.
I love to hear it. I love to hear not that I love to hear that you were unhappy, but this is a real life example of
Yeah, but that's my point about the growth and being able to move through it. Sorry, Kim. I was just saying that that's an example of the growth and saying that, okay, this is the path that I chose and I bought into because of what was instilled in me versus here's my path and what's really good for me and what I need. Not to take away from anything that you did, but the reality of it is you got to be comfortable with you. And I think that's the problem that a lot of us don't do. And we're not taught that.
Yeah. And the other thing that
of growing up with a huge amount of judgment, so much that I swallowed it, I embodied it, and I judged myself.
Right.
And so now, Sunshine, I love calling you Sunshine. I'm sorry, I just call you Sunshine.
It's okay, yeah,
Sunshine. So when Sunshine, you ask me who judges me, I don't know. That's a blessing. That I can say that
to the point where you don't care who's judging you. And that's a great, great thing. But I wanted to quickly go back to the point that Natalie was making before about redemption. I think sometimes that redemption works very differently when it comes to men versus women, because a woman does not get redeemed when she has 2 baby daddies, but a man certainly does, right? Because she will continue being judged forever. Right?
I agree with that. And I think that's the unfortunate part of like how we got on this topic in the first place is that our society and especially in the Black community, judges women way more harshly and has judged women way more
Absolutely.
harshly than men, because it was women were expected to be faithful, to be pure when they got married. Men were not expected that way. And there was nothing that it was not uncommon for a man to have multiple relationships before he got married or to have a kid outside of wedlock. That should happen all the time. And I'm sure some of our family has been through that. But it's
Well,
you're right. That's part of the duality of where we are. And I think
I
Malik,
don't.
to your
I
point,
think even, but I think even men who have children out of wedlock, I think some of you guys will redeem yourself and marry someone
yeah, yeah, I mean,
to
it's happened to me.
this was
You know,
right
that's happened to me.
cloak it to make it be like, okay, I'm rectifying my mistake.
Yep. And
Right.
to,
I
to
think
your
Or
point,
even
Natalie, that's
women were
exactly
like,
why I did what I
I'm
did.
marrying. So I have I had one child out of wedlock. I met this man. He's a good mister, and I'm gonna marry him because he gonna make me right.
Right.
well, I
Right.
also
Exactly.
think too men have the ability, sad to say, we can mask, we can hide and mask what we do wrong that easier than women.
Yeah.
Like I could go to another state, have 10 kids, come back to New York, no one would be the wiser. I'm not walking around pregnant. I don't have to really deal with the
We
children
have the
countries like
evidence,
you.
Malik.
Right.
Exactly.
No,
Women,
I disagree.
no, I'm saying women carry the evidence, like of being pregnant and
In
raising
general.
a child.
In general.
And
That's
then here's
100%.
another thing that
Yeah.
I think when Keith said that society judges women more harshly than men, I have to respectfully disagree because I think it's context based. Because men have the ability to be more sexually promiscuous than women, but we don't have the ability to be as sexually fluid as women.
Huh?
Most
I
women,
don't think there's
most
any
women
difference.
would not.
I agree. Wait. I know exactly because I want to do this. I want because Malik, you're hitting on something, especially when we talk about Black people in religion and the church, right? Especially when we're talking about being sexually fluid in this whole realm of homosexuality, especially if we're all Generation X, right? And we're talking about judgment and certain ideas that have been put upon, even though we say it doesn't matter. When somebody calls somebody gay and you're not a gay man, y'all can't tell me y'all don't feel some kind of way.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
or
mean,
like
you're right.
a woman can say, hey, I kissed my roommate in college, and I'll be on the day and be like, oh shit, me too. She's immediately probably leaving.
Right. And if a dude does that, there's a very different thing to that. And that has to go to, I think we talked about that before too. The vision of masculinity and what that means. To be gay is almost seen as being less masculine when has nothing to do with it. But that's how we visualize it, and that's how it's been portrayed. Whereas a woman being, sexually fluid, to your point, Malik, that's embraced because women are more physical creatures. Their beauty, they're enhanced by this, and we enjoy them sexually, and they've been put on a sexual pedestal. Well, as men are not that. They're the objects of our affection, not the other way around.
I
So
think
Anne
it's
has a
so much
question
more
for you.
appropriate for a woman to be bisexual. It's almost a turn on
Yeah.
for a woman to say, oh, I'm a bisexual. I date women, I date men. But if a man comes to a woman and he says, I'm bisexual, it's like, you down low. Like it's a difference. Like completely, you're right.
Yeah.
You said
I feel
Anne
like
had a
that's the
question.
trade-off. Women can't be hoes, and guys can't be gay.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's so
community. You're
it
right.
balances out at the end. It balances out.
Men are some men are very visual. So if a woman can create a visual story well enough, they fall for it. That is the sad part about being visual. So you have some women who they know how to look, to act, to say certain things, but they have slept with a whole host of men. I'm naked on the internet. My body count is so low. But because I'm naked on the internet and that's what they see, they're like, oh, I know she out there messing around. She got 4 kids. But in reality, we can manipulate men so much easier, which that's why I disagree with you, Malik, because men are so much more easily manipulated because they deal in ego, and the ego is not as intelligent as the soul.
So,
No,
Malik,
you're
I
100%
think there's
right.
a question. I think there's a question out there for you. It says, Malik, is your celibacy based on time frame, religion, or are you waiting for marriage? If so, if you don't get married, will you stay celibate?
I I would like to say yes, in theory. I mean, I'm seeing how it's going now. I definitely want to wait till and I don't want to use the word marriage because I think even the word marriage, from a Quranic standpoint, a biblical standpoint, back when these texts were written, people weren't going down to City Hall and getting married, quote unquote, the way we do it today. They just cleaved on to, like it says in the Bible, they cleaved onto a man and cleaved onto a woman, and they became lifelong partners. They might have had some kind of ceremony to kind of showcase their union in front of people, but I don't think it was like we got to get a marriage license. We got to do. So I believe that once I am in a stable, long-term committed relationship, and I feel safe and comfortable with that person, that is the woman I will be sharing myself with.
How are you presenting your celibacy to her if she is that person? Are you saying, are you letting her know? Or are you just...
Yeah, most people I meet now, just people know me. And I kind of say it up front, I'm not doing things I used to do in the past, because they're like, whatever, Malik, and I'm like, I'm serious. And then I just think they could tell by the type of outings we have now, my conversation, our interaction, like, wow, you really on it like this. I'm like, yeah, like I just want to get to know you. And getting to know you doesn't have to be putting you in some kind of over-sexualized situation where the potential of intimacy is increased. Because I said, here's the thing. All the things I would try to have got you to do in the past are never lessons I would teach to my daughter. I would never say, sweetheart, if a guy takes you out to dinner, he buys you a steak, or he lets you eat from the expensive side of the menu, he
taking it to the seat,
drives you home, give him a little ass at the end of the night. He deserved it. He earned it. I would never say that to her.
So I'm going to ask
arrangements.
I'm going to go through these real, because we're almost at time, and we're going to have to take this conversation. Lord have mercy. We didn't even get into adultery, because that is the one sin in the commandment, in the 10 Commandments, that is really based in sex, because sex itself is not a sin.
Right.
And I think people confuse that.
Mm-hmm.
It really is not a sin. So there was just a couple of questions that, just really quick, y'all can give me 10-second answers. Your yes or no and why in one sentence. Children should not be conceived out of wedlock.
Yes.
I would say ideally, yes, they should not be conceived out of wedlock.
Why?
Primarily because of the complications of raising kids and having a family and making sure it's more difficult to co-parent when you're not together than when you are together. Okay. Not that it's not possible, because I've done it, but it just...
Do you have to be married?
No, you don't have to be married necessarily, but it's raising, to Malik's point, in a non-secular way, there's something said in partnering and raising a child versus doing it separately, because they can see that sense of stability. And I think that's something that has a huge impact on kids.
Okay, moving on. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes or no, 10 seconds. All right. Putting a waiting period on sex before a serious relationship, when you're considering a serious relationship.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Not required, but important.
Not important. Men are expected to have more partners and exploring sex with women. No.
Would you say we're expected to what?
Expected to have more partners and enjoy exploring sex with women.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't say.
But it's not really the truth.
Not at all. Not as long as we have the only part on our body is for pleasure. That's the purpose for the clit. That's the only purpose. Pleasure.
Okay. Your partner's beliefs or religious views have to match yours.
Yeah.
No.
Oh man.
They don't have to match. They have to be aligned.
It'd be better if they were in some alignment.
It makes things easier.
I agree with that.
Be respectful of people's religion and what they do.
Yep.
Premarital sex creates emotional baggage.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Good.
Reputational risk.
Why? Because we all doing it. Why does it create
reputational risk? Because it's like people, you might start, how you grew up and someone has that name in the neighborhood, like, oh, so-and-so, yeah, she be giving it up. It just creates those narratives.
So why is not he giving it up though?
Oh, he, she, whoever. But it's just
okay for he than she. Right, exactly.
I mean, nobody wants community dick either.
You said no, Kim?
No, I did that in high school. I'm almost 50 years old. I don't have a neighborhood that's talking about me like that. And if you are, you're not going to be my friend for very long. So
Women's value goes up if they are married or have been married.
100%, yes.
I think
Yeah, I would agree.
it's
Which is
such a
stupid, but
double
I agree.
standard.
It's sad, but it's true.
Because I've been married and I'm judged differently or looked at differently than women who are in their 40s and they've never been married.
Why
Yeah.
is that? Because I'm that girl. Why is I'm doing a little bit.
I
I'm
think
being-
You don't have children, so it makes you're kind of equivalent. If
No,
you're older, if you're not married without children, you're kind of equivalent to someone who's been married.
what?
Like if you are a woman who doesn't have children and has never been married, you're kind of equivalent in most men's mind, I believe, to a woman who's been married and has children with her husband. Like you're like baby mama kind of is like the bottom of the barrel. So if you can say like, hey, I've never been married, but I don't have any kids, a guy would be like, okay, you know what, I respect that. You wasn't trying to have no babies until you was a wife.
You know,
And then the woman who has babies as a wife is kind of like she had babies with her husband.
Yeah.
so somebody
you
said-
agree?
And I'm trying to follow. I was a little lost in that. I mean, I don't I don't understand it enough to agree or disagree, to be honest with
It's
you.
really mindset.
No, I'm saying that's just like the
mindset.
I'm saying like Keith, that's like the ghetto mindset. It's like
Yes.
when I meet a woman, like say if I met Natalie or Sunshine, and they
Right.
would be like, you know, I've never been married, but I don't have children. I would have a respect for them. They'd be like, oh, okay, you didn't want to just be someone's baby mama,
Right.
knowing the stigma attached to that. You were gonna wait, and that could be just a fluke they didn't have kids. That doesn't necessarily mean that they subscribe to that belief system. But I think men, we would try to assign it to them just to kind of hold them in high regard. To be like, okay, you
No,
know,
I'm
she's a
with you.
decent girl.
Right.
A sign.
I'm
A
with you.
sign.
Yeah.
So Natalie,
Right.
I found out in your situation that you've never been married or have kids, you would be viewed as a first draft pick.
Maybe second round because I'm 50.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Honestly, no, but no, honestly,
Out of that
make you think
hurdle.
because
Out of
right,
those fertile years.
right. Well,
But
not
go
even
ahead.
that, but go ahead anyway. Go ahead.
For the men, is it the same for the men? If a
No,
man
I
has
think-
never been married,
No, y'all think we crazy. If we've
Yeah,
never
you
been
think those
married and
guys
don't
are
have any
weirdos
kids,
or gay?
It's not
No.
to me.
right?
If you've never been married and you have no children and you're over 40, oh, you're you. I'm scared.
See, they think men are weirdos. It's like, damn, nobody wanted to have your baby.
Weirdo. I think as you grow older, you grow into your own personality and you grow into your own habits. And so it's really going to be harder at a certain age for someone who's never been married, no kids, never had somebody living with them to all of a sudden adapt to a new way of living. And
Right.
so I think the red flag is not that they're a bad person or they're afraid of commitment. The red flag is that, you know, that's a huge change when
Right.
it comes to being in a relationship or getting married to someone.
okay.
Being
Last-
single now, I understand why women are single over 40.
Okay.
I understand.
Homosexuality is all of our fears in the Black community religious based?
That's a good question.
Mm.
Religious
You know
and
what,
societal.
Natalie? When people talk about, well, from my experience, when I see people talking about that they have an issue with homosexuality, the first thing that goes into that thought is the sexual act that they do. They don't talk about the
Yeah.
person as a human being or anything anymore. The first thing goes to, oh, that's what you're gonna do for sex. And so that's just becomes the main focus, especially from coming from like a Caribbean background and Black family and the church and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say too, homosexuality is probably viewed more wrong in terms of a religious belief, and obviously in some states it's still, technically illegal. But yeah, I think so. It's a religious thing. It's not really anything else other than that.
Okay, all
I
right.
think there's a societal component to it as well. Like I think in society we make certain assumptions about homosexual men, like that they're all pedophiles, they're all sexual deviants. And I know some guys who've been in long-term relationships with each other, and they're like, but it's like once you hear someone is gay, you think like, oh, he's probably gonna want me, or he does this and he does that. And it's like, these are like to some
fear. Yeah.
These are people.
Yeah.
So even if I don't agree with your lifestyle choice or whatever, I still should respect you as an individual and not a sign.
Yeah, they
All
A
automatically.
these
lot of
labels.
pastors have been outed because of their whole gay whatever. They, pray the gay away and all, but they still up there getting it in. And then finally, can sex really just be physical?
Yeah,
I think if you train yourself,
Yeah.
yes. You can if you wanted to. So,
I mean,
Physical. It is a physical
it is
act.
a physical act, but can you detach from the emotional and mental?
I don't think the average person can without some training.
it's possible. It definitely is possible.
Yeah,
If that's what you want.
right. It's what you're looking for and what you need in a relationship. And I think the thing, both
Well,
people
that's why
have
they
to
have
have that same thing.
prostitutes. I mean, that's why they have prostitutes. I mean, these people are not
Yeah.
falling in love with a prostitute. They're just paying $20 and
But
then
you'd
go
be
home.
surprised. A
They
lot of
may
these,
be going back
a
and
lot of
being
these
like,
guys,
oh,
do.
well,
A lot of these guys go back to the
A
same
lot of
girl.
them, but a lot of them, I mean, it's mostly transactional though.
It's transactional.
For the women,
the other way is sex workers. Sex workers it's a job. They don't
Right.
get attached. They don't fall in love.
They don't.
And they find it very weird when their client starts to feel that way. It's like, what is wrong with you? This is a job. So yeah, it's very possible.
There was one question, Natalie, that came up and was asking if any one of us would sleep with an atheist.
I have.
I think I have. Dude.
I have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't. I afterwards I thought about it and I was like, wow, this is really weird.
How do you know? Do you guys even ask? This is another one. Do you even ask what your spiritual fabric is or religion?
It comes up in conversation.
Yeah, generally.
A one night stand.
How many of y'all know what somebody's what their spiritual thing is?
To be honest with you, I think my last relationship, I think I slept with the devil himself. It was Satan. I slept with Satan.
Oh my God.
Where's
Laughing is
the
related to that.
exorcism, Montaigne? Where is it?
Oh my God.
Anywho, this was good, y'all.
It was.
Y'all brought it. We're gonna continue this conversation in the after party quickly. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Malik. Thank you, Keith, and of course, Sunshine, my host. We will see y'all next week. We got a whole bunch of events coming up in Brooklyn. So if y'all are in Brooklyn, catch us. We're doing a spring fling thing at
Come to the BK.
in the BK, where we got Martha's Vineyard. If anybody's interested, I have a house that's really inexpensive. So anybody who wants to come to the MV, let me know. All right. We'll see you guys in the after party. Come on in. The link is in our Facebook group, and we'll drop it in here. And we'll see y'all soon. Bye, y'all.
On behalf of your
Go to church.
Join Stacked After Hours, The Spot, where grown men and women gather to have candid, also honest discussions about the state of life, love, and more. The Spot is a hybrid of in-person and weekly virtual gatherings. Join our Facebook group and answer our daily questions. Subscribe to our YouTube for our weekly live talk shows and join us on Zoom for our talk show after parties for lively conversations with other opinionated, grown, and sexy professionals. Just search, like, follow, and subscribe to Stack After Hours on Facebook groups and YouTube. Also like and follow our brand pages at Be Stacked Wellness on Facebook and IG. So wherever you are, at home or abroad, pull out your laptop, tablet, or smartphone and join in the conversation with the members of Stacked After Hours. The Spot by Be Stacked Wellness. See you there.
as you know, and if you are new to the Stacked family, we always keep our conversations lit and enlightening.